My fiancée sent me a message at just after 10 p.m. that read, "I'm not in love with you anymore." It was abrupt and left me stunned. After reading it twice, I decided to simply respond, "Thanks for the heads up." With that, I put my phone on airplane mode and the once familiar sounds of our shared apartment felt deafeningly quiet. The refrigerator hummed in the background, stark contrast to the emotional turmoil I was feeling. I sat on the edge of our bed, a stark reminder of the time we had spent building it together on Saturday. It felt like my world had just shattered into pieces. I didn't feel rage yet, just a cold detachment. A strange sense of surgical precision came over me as I realized my new objective was not to build a life, but to dismantle one with minimal personal fallout. The following morning, I didn't immediately spring into action. Instead, I sat quietly on the balcony with my coffee, observing the city slowly stirring to life. My first step wasn't motivated by revenge, but by the need to assess the extent of the damage. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet titled Project Disentanglement, meticulously cataloging every shared financial commitment, deposit, and wedding vendor. With the impending wedding only 3 months away, the financial implications were stark and immediate. Over the next week, I dedicated myself to countless phone calls and emails in a slow, arduous effort. The venue was the most significant blow. Our $15,000 deposit was deemed non-refundable, as per the contract. However, the caterer, Mr. Henderson, showed compassion and agreed to return half of our deposit, a small gesture of kindness. The photographer's reaction, on the other hand, was, "I curtailed, my time was booked. The deposit is non-negotiable." Each no was a fresh wound, a reminder of the future I'd been investing in. By the end of the week, the total loss was just over $28,000. My money. I'd insisted on paying for everything, a gesture of love and security that now felt like a sick joke. I packed my own things first: clothes, books, work equipment. It took 2 days. I left her belongings untouched. I wasn't going to be vindictive, just decisive. I took the custom engagement ring to a jeweler. He offered me about 30% of what I paid. I accepted without a word. The money wasn't the point. Erasing the symbol was. The dress was harder, a $7,000 piece of art hanging in a closet. I took several high-quality photos and posted it on a popular pre-owned wedding dress website. I listed it for $4,000 with the title, "Custom Down Never Worn." My auntie had a change of heart. I knew it could take months to sell, if ever. It was just another loose end. Finally, the apartment. Our lease had a hefty break fee. He agreed to waive the fee only if I found a suitable new tenant to take over the lease immediately. The hunt for a new tenant began. During this week, Clara's texts started. They followed a predictable pattern. "Can we talk? This is not how you handle things. You're being so dramatic and impulsive. My mother is worried. You owe our families an explanation." The sheer breathtaking entitlement of it all was the only thing that cut through my numbness. She seemed to genuinely believe that she could drop a bomb on our life and then be angry at me for how I swept up the debris. I never replied. I just forwarded the more aggressive messages to a Clara folder in my email, just in case. One evening, I got a call from her mother, Karen. I let it go to voicemail. "Michael, darling," her message began, oozing false concern. "I know Clara can be impulsive, but you two need to talk this through. A real man would fight for my daughter, not run away from a little pre." After experiencing some minor jitter while editing, I added the voicemail file to the folder and began working on an advertisement for the apartment. However, things quickly took a turn for the complicated when I found new tenants, a young professional couple named Mark and Sarah, who were eager to move in at the beginning of the following month. This news brought me a great sense of relief. I then made arrangements for professional movers to clear out my furniture and store it temporarily while I stayed at my brother's place, which was an hour away. With the logistical aspects taken care of, the emotional aftermath began to set in. The first wave came in the form of messages from Clara's friends expressing concern and criticism. I chose to ignore them. Subsequently, I received an email from Karen that carried a new level of entitlement. She insisted that I assist Clara in packing her things from the apartment due to her emotional state, as well as provide financial support for her to find a new place to live. I didn't respond to the situation regarding Karen's deposit, but instead, I chose to email Clara directly. In the email, I informed Clara, a new tenant set to take over the lease on the first of the month, that all of Karen's belongings needed to be removed by then, as per the agreement with the landlord. I suggested that Karen seek help from her mother as I wouldn't be available to assist. Subsequently, Karen's reaction was intense, leading to a barrage of texts accusing me of being cold and heartless. A few days later, my brother alerted me to visitors at his place while I was at work, and my intuition told me instantly who it was: Karen. When I arrived at my brother's home, I found Karen and Clara engaged in a heated argument with my brother, who was blocking the door with his arms crossed. Clara called out to me as if I had wronged her, complaining that my brother wouldn't let them in. Firmly, I reminded Clara that this was my brother's home and that she was not invited. Karen then stepped forward, stating that we needed to talk and criticizing my behavior as appalling, claiming that I had embarrassed someone. Your family, Clara, made one mistake and now everything is ruined. A mistake? I questioned. Was it a mistake to end an engagement and play a text, or was the mistake simply getting caught? Clara flinched, and for a moment I glimpsed a hint of guilt before it was quickly replaced by indignation. What are you insinuating? She snapped. I had no concrete evidence, just a gut feeling that her "not in love with you" text concealed a darker truth. However, proof or not, the outcome remained unchanged. It means we're finished, I declared. Clara began to plead. What do you expect? I can't immediately afford a new place of my own, and I can't relocate on my own. You have to assist me. No, I don't, I retorted. You must bear the consequences of your decisions. You're an adult. Figure it out. I turned to head inside, ignoring Taryn's explanation. We will be consulting our lawyer. Can't leave her like this. The threat was so preposterous that I almost chuckled. I proceeded inside and closed the door, leaving them standing outside for another 10 minutes before they finally departed. The following day, I hired a service to assist. All of Clara's remaining belongings have been professionally packed and transported to a storage unit that I arranged and paid for the first month of. The key to the unit has been sent to her mother's address by certified mail to ensure a clean break. I thought this would be the end of it, but I was mistaken. The real nightmare was just beginning. On the 2nd of the month, soon after the new tenant, Mark, had moved in, he called me with an urgent problem. A stranger was found in the apartment. Mark informed me that the person claimed to be Clara's cousin, Leo, a familiar face known to be a frequent visitor and guest at various places. It suddenly became clear to me that Clara hadn't truly moved out. She had simply shifted her cousin into the apartment. In a panic, I immediately contacted my lawyer, Sarah, known for her sharp and pragmatic approach. After explaining the situation to her, she responded with a long, slow whistle. Oh, she didn't, Sarah said with a mix of disbelief and respect in her tone, recognizing the audacity of Clara's actions. Okay, Michael, do not contact her. Do not contact the cousin. This is now a legal matter, Sarah explained. This is an illegal sublet and an unlawful detainer situation. We need to start the formal eviction process. And so began my education in tenant law, Sarah explained, that we couldn't just throw him out. Leo had established residency illegal as it was. The police would not intervene without a court order. We had to serve him with a formal notice to quit, giving him a set number of days to vacate. We hired a process server. Leo, of course, refused to answer the door. It took 3 attempts before the server could legally post the notice and certify that it had been delivered. The notice period came and went. Leo stayed put. Mark and Sarah were understandably furious. They were staying in a hotel, and I was paying for it. It was my responsibility. The next step was filing an unlawful detainer lawsuit to get an eviction order from a judge. The filing fees, the lawyer's fees, the hotel bills, they were all piling up. Lara's deceitful plan was causing me significant financial losses. At the same time, I received a new email from Karen, expressing concern about the situation with her nephew, who was looking after Clara's belongings. Karen claimed that we were harassing their family and causing great stress. She mentioned that their lawyer believed they had a strong case against us for breaking a promise and for the financial and emotional harm inflicted on Clara. However, I recognized it as a bluff. Sarah confirmed that winning a breach of promise lawsuit in our state, especially since Clara was the one who ended the arrangement, would be highly unlikely. Despite this, the email served as valuable evidence, as it acknowledged Leo's presence at the property. In a stroke of luck, my lawyer discovered through social media that Leo had been venting to his friends about his new landlady, describing her as unreliable. He had even shared a screenshot of a conversation with Clara where she agreed to let him stay for $500 in cash per month, with the condition of keeping it discreet. It became evident that Clara wasn't just allowing him to stay temporarily. She was actively involved in the arrangement. After being caught for rental fraud, I faced the consequences, including an eviction court date set 6 weeks later. It meant continuing to cover hotel expenses for my new tenants and pay the mortgage on a house I no longer lived in. Despite the frustrating and slow battle, each bill I paid fueled my determination. It was no longer just about moving forward, but about taking responsibility. The eviction hearing turned out to be surprisingly underwhelming yet satisfying. Leo appeared glum, with Clara and Karen offering moral support from the back. However, the judge called Clara to the front. Sarah, our representative, masterfully presented our case with evidence like the new lease agreement with Mark and Sarah, the eviction notice, and crucially, a certified copy of Leo's incriminating social media posts and texts with Clara discussing illicit dealings. As the judge scrutinized the evidence, Clara's facade of self-righteousness swiftly collapsed. He said, her voice dangerously soft, "Did you enter into a rental agreement with your cousin for an apartment you were no longer leasing?" Clara admitted, "I was just trying to help him by committing fraud." The judge declared, "The eviction is granted effective immediately." The judge also ordered Clara to reimburse him for all the hotel costs, his lawyer's fees, and the court costs, which amounted to a significant sum, surpassing the original wedding deposits lost. Clara and Karen angrily stormed out of the courtroom, while Leo appeared bewildered. I left quietly, reflecting on the outcome. Instead of an explosive victory, it was a quiet, methodical triumph of following due process and facing consequences. Life had moved forward. I found a new place in a different part of the city, sold most of the furniture store away, aiming for a fresh start. My brother and I escaped to the mountains for a weekend, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely free. Last week, I received a notification from the wedding dress website. After nearly 5 months, the dress finally found a buyer. Shortly thereafter, a letter arrived at my new residence. It was a card from the purchaser, a lady named Amanda. Instead of a check, the card contained a photograph of her and her new spouse happily standing on a beach. Amanda was wearing the dress, looking radiant in the picture. Her message was brief. "Michael, I may not know the history behind the dress, only that it was intended for a future that never materialized. I wanted you to witness the future it is now part of. Thank you. I hope you found your own peace." As I gazed at the photo, observing the happiness on their faces, I realized that the anger and resentment I had once harbored had disappeared. In its place was a serene sense of tranquility. While Clara's actions had their repercussions, so had mine. I had opted for a systematic approach, not a vengeful one. I had chosen to construct rather than destroy. Her betrayal did not define my narrative. The final chapter, the story I am currently penning, belongs solely to me, and it is a much more favorable tale.